Okay. And hi, Mr. Siva Kumar and Mr. Selva Kumar. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
My name's Alistair. I'm in the same team as Caroline.
Oh, okay,
and
okay.
I'll be chairing the session today.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. I think Caroline, we regularly deal with, and she's coordinating for our India matters. So we're really grateful. And we have our head business group, Mr. Shivakumar, whom you'll also get to hear during the course of the presentation. We are grateful
Perfect.
for him also to join with us this afternoon.
Great. And so we're going to start with the presentation from Caroline and Ife, and then we'll move over to your presentation. So you'll have about half an hour, including question and answer session.
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay.
Caroline briefed us all the rules,
great.
Regulations. Yeah, thank you so much.
Great. Okay, so Fatma, just let us know when to start.
Okay. People are starting to join in. Dorsal?
Oui, Fatma.
Okay. Quand les spectateurs commencent à rejoindre.
Oui, ils ont commencé à rejoindre. On a 9 personnes déjà.
D'accord.
On va leur donner 5 minutes maximum et puis on va démarrer. Attendees are being connected. We give them 5 minutes to come online, then we start the webinar. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Hello, Jihan.
Hello, hi.
Welcome.
Thank you. I'm here just for a couple of minutes.
Okay, thanks. Great.
Unless you need me.
Having you here is great. That's enough.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
I mean, having you here is great enough.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So I guess people are not in yet, yeah?
Yeah,
they are in.
Yeah.
Oh, they're
We
in.
have 17. Thank you.
17 now. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess it's taken time for them to connect.
Maybe you can send a calendar invite, a reminder from Box. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think I'll do that.
Good afternoon, everyone. We'll just wait one more minute, and then we'll get started with today's session. Okay. Thank you for your patience.
Jahan?
Yes, yes.
After all, we need you. Would you be able to send the reminder? Apparently, I don't have the permission to send to all staff.
Okay, I'll do it. Okay,
Okay,
and
thank
you can start. I'll do it meanwhile.
Okay, thanks.
Great. So we'll get started then. Welcome everyone to today's brown bag session on India. And of course, we're all following the situation, the COVID situation in India, and sending our thoughts and prayers to everyone there that the situation improves. My name is Alistair Charnock. I work in the bank's Resource Mobilization and Partnerships Department, firm, in Division 2, which oversees the bank's trust fund portfolio, and I will be chairing today's session. The session is divided into two parts. The first part is on the India Trust Fund, which will have a presentation and then a Q&A session, question and answer session. The second part is focused on the Export-Import Bank of India, Exim Bank, and highlights some of the opportunities for collaboration with the bank. And we're very excited to have with us Mr. Siva Kumar, the General Manager of Exim Bank India, as well as Mr. Selva Kumar, the representative or the resident representative of Exim Bank India here in Côte d'Ivoire. Again, there will be a presentation followed by Q&A. But first, for the presentation on the India Trust Fund, we'll hear from Caroline Madlan, who is the Relationship Manager for India within firm. We will also hear from Ife Emelife, who is the Chief Public and Private Partnership Officer working within the Power Systems Department within the bank's energy complex. And Ife has been managing a project financed by the India Trust Fund. So just as a reminder, please put any questions or comments into the chat function or the Q&A function, and we will then read them out afterwards. So I will now hand over to Caroline to kick off the presentation on the India Trust Fund. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alistair, and good afternoon to all. And welcome to Mr. Selva Kumar and Mr. Kumar. We are happy you're here with us to join us on this session. So today I'll be talking to you about India. As you all know, India has had a reliable partnership, a long-term partnership with the continent for a while. It's part of the continent's development story. That's why we have invited India Exim Bank here today to share with us some of the initiatives they have carried out on the continent. I will be focusing on the trust funds, but I would like to mention that the bank has a long-standing and very strategic partnership with India, which dates back to the 80s. Actually dates back to 1982, when India joined the African Development Fund, and as well as contributed to the general capital increases of the bank. So as I have mentioned, today's session will be on trust funds, because in addition to the statutory contributions made by India to the ADF and GCI, India is also providing grant resources to the bank to promote South-South collaboration, which we are very appreciative of. And India has provided support in a number of areas, including capacity building initiatives, technical assistance, and also sharing India's development experience. So I'll be talking to you about the India-Africa Economic Cooperation Trust Fund that we call INAFEC. So I'll be moving. So in this presentation, I'll provide an overview of the trust fund. We've had 3 trust funds with India since 1998, but I'll be focusing on the last trust fund that was established in 2015. I'll be talking about the objectives of the fund, the areas of interventions, eligible beneficiaries to the In Effect Trust Fund, how we can access trust fund resources, the track record of the Indian trust funds at the bank, and a concrete example of a collaboration through an operation that has been funded under the India Trust Fund, as well as contact information on how you can contact the team for further information on India Trust Fund, as well as collaboration with India in general. So in terms of overview of the In Effect Trust Fund, the last trust fund was established in May 2015 for a trust fund size amount of $9.52 million. I should mention it is 100% untied, meaning that we procure goods and services from all our regional member countries as well as non-regional member countries. So the main objective of this fund is really to support the economic development and capacity building in our regional member countries. And examples of activities that have been funded include studies, workshops, consultancies, and of course, technical assistance for project preparation. So there are a number of areas of intervention or sectors that are that can be funded under this trust fund, including infrastructure, trade, private sector, and so forth. I'll be speaking to these on another slide. And I would like to mention that the only instrument under the India Trust Fund is grants. So the India Trust Fund provides only grants for the different projects and initiatives of the bank. In terms of grant size, the bank has the authority to approve up to $100,000, proposals up to $100,000, and proposals above $100,000 are submitted to India for approval. And of course, proposals that are above or $1 million go to the board for consideration. Given that it is the India Trust Fund, there is only one donor to the fund, that is the government of India, and the lifespan of the fund is 5 years. Now, what are the objectives of the fund? The main objective of the fund is to support the economic development and capacity building of RMCs, or really to support projects in our RMCs. And as I mentioned, this is through the provision of technical assistance for studies, for economic sector work in policy areas. It also includes capacity building and human resource development. It includes also funding seminars, workshops, conferences, and other knowledge sharing initiatives, as well as piloting development approaches. Now, in terms of the areas of intervention, funds under this fund can be used to support projects in infrastructure, including development of railway networks. Our experience has been to fund infrastructure in the energy sector. We've done a lot of these. The second area of intervention is around trade to improve Africa's integration. Another area of intervention is private sector development and fostering private-public partnerships. I should mention here that we've carried out so many activities under fostering public-private partnerships, building on India's development experience, as well as its expertise in PPPs. We also have information and communication technology as an area, as well as science and technology and non-conventional energy. So through this particular sector, we have been able to fund projects in the health sector, which, as you may be all aware, in the past was not a priority area for the bank. But following the COVID-19 pandemic and the challenges with health systems on the continent, this key area has become very critical for the bank. Now, beneficiaries to the fund include regional member countries, of course, institutions in these regional member countries, as well as technical assistance activities that may be proposed by bank departments, so long as they are aligned to the sectors and priority areas of the India Trust Fund or INAFEC. Now, how do we access resources under the India Trust Fund? I think colleagues may be familiar with this since we've had a number of brown bag sessions, but the first activity we carry out is normally a call for proposal over a 4-week period to enable colleagues submit proposals. This is followed by a long list that firm carries out. And then we submit these proposals to a technical review, which is made up of different bank departments to review the proposals to ensure we are aligning to the objectives of the India Trust Fund. Once the technical review has approved the proposals, these are submitted to India should the proposals be over $100,000. So if the proposals are less than $100,000, the bank has the authority to have these proposals approved and departments are informed. After submitting to India, once we hear back from India, we do inform departments on the approval or the rejection from the donor from India, and colleagues are now invited to implement the activity in question. And we, on an annual basis, do inform India on the status of implementation or progress of the activity. And at the end of the activity, we do submit a project completion report to India. Now, in terms of track record, I mean, since the first trust fund we had at a bank in 1998, we've had contributions worth 19 million. And as I said, we've had 3 trust funds with India in 1998, 2010, and 2015. The trust fund has disbursed about $10.23 million to date. We have 5 ongoing projects under the 215 trust fund agreements. But in total, 56 projects have been funded since the bank established a trust fund with India. Currently, we do not have funding available for commitments for a very simple reason. The fund expired in May 2020, and we are in advanced discussions with India to extend it. As you may be aware, there was a COVID pandemic situation last year, so there was a bit of slowdown in terms of taking this forward. But I should mention that there are advanced discussions with India to extend the India Trust Fund for another 5 years. So now I would hand over to Emily Ife from PESR to walk us through an example of a project that has been implemented under the Indian Trust Fund. Over to you, Ife.
Thank you, Caroline, and a very good day to everyone on this webinar. A good day to you as well, Mr. Silver and the India Exim team. Yes, like Caroline said, we are one of the beneficiaries of the Indian Trust Fund grant. One that we have absolutely benefited from and has been very, very impactful. And we would want to attest and really share our story with everyone on the call. So like Caroline has said, I think India is known very well for a number of things, one of them being IT. They're also known for medical tourism. But one thing as well they're very good in is in the energy sector. For those who are not too versed with the energy sector, there is the generation part of it, the transmission, the distribution. Mm-hmm. They are quite very good experts in generation and transmission, generation with the upcoming renewables aspect of it. So when we in the complex, like energy is one of the very many challenges we face in infrastructure. If you're in Abidjan, you can witness the power cuts that we've been having this past few days. But really, electricity cuts across east, west, south. We have all the same problem. And it's not really, like I said in the slide, it's not really sometimes a matter of generation. We have some countries in Africa where you have excess power supply. It's just the ability to move them from one to the other. So the transmission, which is the middle part of the value chain, is sort of the toll road that gets the molecules from the ground to you and I that are using it. So that is one place we find very deficient in our sector in Africa. So once we looked deeper into this, we found out that part of the challenges, of course, was lack of investment in this area. And our governments, though they try as much as they try, there are still a lot of gaps, a lot of competing demands for them. So the ability to be able to get it sufficiently to the level where they don't have challenges and bottlenecks has always been a problem. So we decided to look, let's dig deeper and see how do we get this resolved? How do we clear this bottleneck? And the bank has found out that, look, there are emerging countries, there are developed countries that have done it in the past, but let us look to people that are similar to us, both in governance, both in numbers, population, both in going through the issues that we've been, and India fitted perfectly with our research. So we reached out to Caroline, and we reached out to the request, and it did come through. So really, that's just an overview. So in August 2019, like I said, we made an application, which Caroline has said, if you're working in the bank, you should probably know the processes of getting approved for this. And we made our case of why it was important to sensitize our governments on the need to have a pragmatic shift from the way they were doing business. It's no longer business as usual. Now we need to really think about the transmission sector moving gradually from the public to the private and increasing those investments that we're looking for. So we wanted to work with the power pools, and we spoke to them, and they welcomed our suggestion and proposal. So the fund that was approved was 300,000 for studies. The studies were to look into each of the power pools in the regions, and we went with 3. We didn't go for all 5 of them. As you would notice, we don't have Central Africa and North Africa on the list. We went with these 3. Spoke to them, looked, the studies were supposed to look at their regulation, look at the enabling environment. If you want to bring in the private sector, there are steps and various things that you need to do. So that's what the study did, and they were able to also compare it with what other upcoming emerging markets like India are doing, and where are we getting it wrong or right. And then as well as this, we also had training. So from what I said in the slide, we had 21 training sessions over 3 months, covering 32 member countries in the South, East, and West, with over 200 participants. And participants came from all the utilities in the region, as well as the power pool. Sometimes as well, you had government officials joining in, or people that were just interested in the subject matter. We also had a few private sector experts who came in to share their experience. Of course, India Exim was there. We had workshops where they came and gave us their own first-hand, first-level experience of how they've done it and what they think Africa needs to do. So following that partnership and support that we have from India, we're pushing this further. We're not just stopping there. We found out that there's a lot more to gain from them. And with that funding that they've given us, we've been able to identify some pilot first mover projects that we might be able to take forward. And that is no small feat, because the governments really did appreciate it and said, you know what, AFDB, we think we might be interested in doing this. So that's the next stage. And we're now planning with governments, because now the request has gone larger. You know, when they say, well, if a twist asks for more, that's where they are right now. They're like, can you please train our regulators, our government officials, the policy makers, so that they really understand? Because we were talking to the technocrats, we were talking to the people who are the ones that do the planning, all those people. But now they said there's another section of it that that would need that training. So Caroline, we might be coming back, but really, in essence, that's how the support and the partnership with India has gone so far, to which we are really, really grateful. I think my presentation ends there. Caroline?
Yes. Thank you very much, Ife, for this presentation. Indeed, I mean, we can see clearly how with $300,000 from grant resources, you've been able to do a lot. I should also mention that we've had so many capacity building initiatives in the mining sector with ALSF, and also that has been wonderful. I mean, a lot of resources have gone into mining. And also we did have a public-private partnership initiative in the health sector, which was also fantastic. And going forward, as the bank is pushing to work in the health sector, I mean, there are really opportunities for us to leverage India's well-known expertise in healthcare, as well as in the pharmaceutical sectors. So in terms of team composition, so as my colleague Aliza mentioned, I am the relationship manager for the India Trust Fund. And we also have the OIC division manager, Roderick Norman. So please feel free to reach out to us with regards to the India Trust Fund, and we'll be able to support as required. Thank you very much, and over to you, Aliza.
Great, thanks so much, Caroline and Ife, for that great overview, and to hear some of the success stories that have come out of the fund. There haven't been any questions put into the chat or the Q&A, so I was thinking perhaps in the interest of time, we can move straight into the presentation from Exim Bank colleagues, and then we can have a wider Q&A discussion at the end, just to perhaps save a bit of time. Does that sound okay?
Perfect.
I see you're nodding. Okay, great. So so we'll pass over. Perhaps you can stop sharing. Yeah. So the second part of this session, as mentioned earlier, is to hear more
I think we lost his connection.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello. Yeah, sorry, power went off.
has lost his connection.
Yes.
Yeah, I think power went off, just came back, just for a minute it went off. Am I audible?
Yes, Selva.
Okay, okay.
You could
Yeah.
you could start by sharing. Oh, I see. Because there are power outage in Côte d'Ivoire sometimes. That's why.
Yes, it just went off
Yes.
and came back again, thankfully.
Yes.
So I can.
So maybe you can start by sharing the presentation on the screen.
Ready, Selva, as like Fatma says, we can be ready. Keep the screen ready.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Salazar is back. Salazar is back.
Yes.
Yeah, sure, sure. Because here also power went off, just came, thankfully, because the Wi-Fi, once it goes off, then there is no, alternative.
Apologies. Yeah. Yeah, the energy, the power just cut. So apologies about that. A good example of the energy problems. So I'll hand over to you, Mr. Kumar. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity at the time where we could, come at the initiative of Africa Development Bank. We are really grateful, and through this brown bag session, we intend to build that close relationship that began way back in 1982, as you mentioned. A special thanks to Caroline and the team, Ife, for facilitating this session. We are really grateful. Before we get into the specifics of what we are going to do, I think we'll spend about 7 to 8 minutes knowing about what India Exim Bank is and some of the key products that we had launched. And through some of these products, we were able to reach out to the African continent itself. So that will be one of the focus areas. And then we will be looking at India Exim collaboration, how our focus in Africa and also with the AFDB. And our joint opportunities for collaboration will be focused, and we'll be happy to take the Q&A. Just to give you a little background, the Exim Bank was constituted in 1981 by an act of parliament, primarily to facilitate India's exports or international trade. It's an institution, financial institution, owned wholly by the government of India, and we commenced our operations in 1982. We have a presence, our head office in Mumbai, India, and we have 9 regional offices in India, and also equal number of offices across the globe, starting from Singapore on the eastern side to the west side in Washington, DC. And we have a branch office in London. Just to highlight, there are 3 offices that you can see in the screen, 3 dots. We have for the East Africa region, we have our office in Addis Ababa, which focuses on the entire eastern side, and up to Kenya it focuses. And we have our Johannesburg office, which looks after the southern region, the Southern African region. And the West Africa is here based out of Abidjan, and currently handling that. We look after 20 countries. The focus of presenting this is primarily, as we understand that in this session, we have a regional office or regional members present here in this session. So they can reach out to us, to one of our offices. We'll be glad to facilitate or collaborate in whatever manner that we could be of any help. Exim Bank has its presence across geographical boundaries from Australia into the Americas. Through our lending programs, we have reached out to many of these countries, over 90 countries, if I may add so. And we began as a product-centric approach. I mean, we began with that approach, introducing the products. But we, over the period of time, in these 40 years, we realized that we have to also deal with our clients, and client-centric is what is needed for this kind of an activity. And so we moved from product-centric to the customer-centric approach. This is what our journey has been. And the rest of the session, I would like to hand over. We have with us General Manager, Mr. Shivakumar. He also heads the Business Development Group. He's a seasoned banker and having rich experience working across in our Washington office, and also in various products that he will take us through. He had been instrumental in developing some of them. Sir, it's over to you, Mr. Shivakumar, my colleague.
Thank you for the nice words. Thanks, Ms. Alice there, Ms. Caroline, Ms. Emile, Ms. Fatima. Okay, see, Exim Bank's products can be broadly categorized. Sila, can you go to the previous slide? Exim Bank's products can be broadly categorized into export finance and export capability creation. Under export, under export finance, Exim Bank offers lines of credit and constructive financing scheme, buyer's credit, both under normal as well as NASDAQ exportation account, project exports, and non-fund based facilities for all this. Under export capability creation, Exim Bank offers term loans, working capital, product development loan, export facilitation loans, overseas investment finance loans, and R&D finance. Next slide. Lines of credit is a financing mechanism by which Exim Bank India gives loans to overseas governments for projects executed by Indian companies, primarily infrastructure sectors. Next slide. To just give you an idea of projects executed by lines of credit by Indian government in overseas countries, includes water projects in Malawi, IT and biotech park in Cote d'Ivoire, and projects for SMEs in other country, Kenya. Under construction financing scheme, Exim Bank offers again something similar to lines of credit, but it is not required under bidding. Next slide. We have done one project, a large power project in Bangladesh, 2 numbers of 660 megawatts power project. Under buyer's credit and the National Export Insurance Account, where Exim Bank offers financing to overseas medium to long term for import of projects from India. Some of the projects executed by Exim Banks and a Bias National Export account includes, next slide, Selva. Yeah, we have done transmission projects in Zambia, export of vehicles to Senegal, transmission lines in Mauritania, and in Ghana, railway projects. Under commercial, we also do finance Indian companies for export of projects of products and services. And these are the segregation in terms of sector, country, and industry. Next slide. Under the projects supported by Exim Bank includes under commercial, solar projects in Egypt, again, a port infrastructure development in Guinea, hotel in Sierra Leone, and in Nigeria for development of the oil refinery. In the last finance budget, Exim Bank has introduced a new program called Uprite Sitare, which means rising stars, to identify companies which have the fire, which is already doing very well in India, but has export potential and they can do very large in overseas countries. Next slide. Yeah, these companies are with a unique value proposition, be it technology, products, or process that are matching with global requirements. These are fundamentally strong companies, acceptable financials and output orientation, has good business model, strong management capabilities, focusing on product quality, small and mid-sized companies with ability to penetrate global markets. Here we give term loans, grant, as well as equity. Next slide. Exim Bank's niche program is Overseas Investment Finance, where Exim Bank encourages Indian companies to invest abroad for inter alia setting up manufacturing units and for acquiring overseas companies, be it to access to foreign market, technology, raw material, brand, IPR, etc. Exim Bank offers financing both at India level as well as overseas level. Exim Bank gives term loans to Indian companies for equity investments or on lending. Exim Bank also gives loan to the overseas companies for various purposes, including for working capital, capacity expansion, asset acquisition, etc. Exim Bank also gives guarantee facilities to overseas ventures for raising term loans and working capital in overseas market. This gives the movement of regulatory requirements over a period of time. And Exim Bank has seen a traditional as well as movement from 92 to present, where it is significantly liberalized. Next slide. Some of the examples where Exim Bank has helped Indian companies go overseas: a project of aluminum rolling in US, again in your own place Ethiopia, a greenfield dairy manufacturing facility in Addis Ababa. Next slide. An automobile components manufacturing facility in Morocco, and an acquisition by an Indian company of a company in IT. Under R&D, Exim Bank offers term loans for financing R&D expenses. This is one of the niche program of Exim Bank India, which otherwise are not eligible for a term loan. We consider R&D as a project and finance. In fact, when someone was mentioning about healthcare, Exim Bank has even given loans for development of vaccines. And we are proud to say that we are financing one of the indigenous vaccines for COVID-19 in India. Next slide. Some of the examples where Exim Bank has financed R&D loans is MCure, which is developing some pharmaceuticals, and another company is into water treatment. Next slide. Under the microfinance, besides traditional financing, Exim Bank gives loans for grassroots initiatives as well as market advisory. Exim Bank has funding a lot of projects, be it bamboo, be it traditional textiles, as well as placing products of handicrafts and other traditional products in overseas market. These are some of the examples where Exim Bank India has helped small companies to get into overseas markets. Next slide. Under India Exim Bank's collaboration, which is the focus for today, we'll spend a little more time. First, we look at Africa and then AFDB in particular. As well as India Exim Bank's collaboration in Africa, India's engagement with Africa is unique and based on mutual benefit, as someone said, purely thriving on South-South cooperation, contributing to Africa's development objectives through the conciliatory process. As far as India's collaboration with Africa, it covers diverse areas such as agriculture, health, education, infrastructure, power, ICT, small and medium enterprise, science and technology. As far as India's development assistance, primarily through lines of credit, over 40% goes to African countries. As far as India Exim Bank is concerned, Exim Bank's presence by way of assistance in Africa covers again diverse areas such as railways, industrial park, textile, agricultural equipment, tractor assembly unit, hydroelectric project, farm mechanization, procurement of buses, plantation, cement plants, setting up of diesel generator sets, rural electrification, waste management, etc. Predominantly, these are routed through lines of credit, but some of it are also through commercial, which I handle. Next slide, please. Under India Exim Bank's collaboration, Exim Bank India has done select consultancy assignments in Africa, as well as also have strong institutional linkages. To look at some of the consultancy assignments done by India Exim Bank in Africa includes institutional capacity building for export credit and insurance in Rwanda, pre-feasibility study for setting up Commonwealth Trade and Development Bank in Africa, consultancy services to IDC South Africa, and Exim Bank has been associated with Africa Exim Bank since beginning in 1987 when the concept was first mooted, and designed, developed, and implemented a film financing program in Nigerian Exim Bank, provide technical assistance across various functional areas of Ghana Exim Bank. As for institutional linkages, in fact, we are proud to say that we have worked very closely with the AFDB and have something like a marquee program every annual meeting called Africa-India Partnership Day. We also work under the BRICS Forum. We also have the work under CETA initiative. Again, we work very closely with Africa under the International Solar Alliance, and we work very closely with Gene Exit, where even some of the members are from Africa. Next slide. Now coming to AFDB, as one of your panelists mentioned, India is a member of AFDB group with a share of 0.276%. Many Indian companies participate in projects funded by the AFDB group. Contracts awarded by 2 Indian companies provide opportunities to strengthen India's position as a supplier of goods and services to the African countries in sectors where India has a competitive advantage. We should mention that while Exim Bank has expertise like many other developed countries, Exim Bank brings what I would say that affordable technology. Sectors of collaboration include railways, power, education, water supply, sanitation, health, pharmaceuticals, pharmaceuticals and health, besides transport, agriculture, infrastructure, ICT, etc. Next slide. Continuing with India Exim Bank's collaboration with AFDB. Collaboration with AFDB in terms of project development company in Africa, India Exim Bank along with other institutions have joined hands with AFDB and promoted a project development company for infrastructure development in Africa. It's named as Kukuza Project Development Company, and it's been incorporated in Mauritius in July 2015. Some of the pipeline projects which are at advanced stage include healthcare, rail and port development, fisheries in Mozambique, and healthcare projects in Kenya. Next slide. This is a marquee event which I said that over the years we have make it as a very event. India Exim Bank together with Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry organizes the Africa-India Partnership Day on the sidelines of AFDB's annual meeting. The objective is to share India's development experience with Africa, particularly in PPP model of financing infrastructure development. The Africa-India Partnership Day has become a regular feature of the AFDB annual meeting and showcases the immense scope for expanding the mutually enriching partnership between Africa and India. As you are aware, the AFDB's annual meeting in 2017 was held in Gujarat, India, which was hugely attended by many participants. India Exim Bank individually and in partnership with CS organized seminars for AFDB. This is what where we want to discuss a little more and leave the thought where AFDB and India Exim Bank can do further collaboration. One area is in terms of co-financing projects, where we can, India Exim Bank can work with AFDB to finance projects of mutual interest. Exim Bank, it could be both PPP as well as fully commercial. Exim Bank can also offer arrange business opportunity seminars for AFDB in India to take these opportunities for companies in India to participate, where we have done for World Bank ADB in India, which has drawn huge success and also brings a lot of competition to participate and realize the real value of the projects. AFDB and India Exim Bank can collaborate in terms of knowledge sharing and capacity building in select sectors, some of which we have discussed a little earlier. We can do secondment of officers both ways. We already have the pleasure of sending some officers on secondment to AFDB, and we immensely benefited. We also understand that AFDB also has greatly been benefited by India's secondment of officers. The last one where I want to leave a thought, which I think should be of great interest to AFDB. India Exim Bank has mooted this idea of counter trade, where there are some countries, especially in Africa, including in Africa, where they have rich resources, certain resources, but has greatly dependent on imports from countries like including India, but they have a shortage in foreign currency. This as a method of trade, we've been discussing, it has drawn some traction in India. Maybe we can want to have some thought from AFDB so that we can work together and maybe try, as someone was mentioning, some we can try a pilot transaction. Based on its success, we can roll out this as a trade mechanism to other countries. This is a short presentation, and I think, as Ms. Caroline said, we were very particular to stop in 15 minutes. I think we exactly stopped in 15 minutes. We would like to have more time for Q&A. Thanks, Selva.
Thank you, sir. We are open for Q&A. Yes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Siva Kumar and Mr. Kumar. That was a very informative presentation. You packed in a lot of information there in the 15 minutes, and thank you for keeping to the time. So I'm going to ask colleagues now, please, if you can put any questions in the chat. So attendees can't just ask questions. So Arun, I see you have your hand up, but it'd be easier if you could just put the question or type the question. Arun can now speak.
Hello.
Okay, so you don't speak. Okay, yeah, go ahead, Arun. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, colleague from the bank and from Exim Bank also. Thank you so much for the presentation. My name is Arun Kumar. I work with the bank and managing healthcare investments across the continent. And this is a very interesting presentation which I heard, and I was interested on some of the areas. I have a laundry list of questions, but I don't want to go into that. Specifically, let's see how we can collaborate. See, one of the issue especially on the healthcare side, I represent the healthcare on the private sector. So I'm more interested to learn more on the private sector healthcare side, how we can collaborate with the private sector. That's one point. The other issue in the healthcare sector is the capital, So how Exim Bank can mobilize equity investment, or how Exim Bank can support the local healthcare operators to in terms of motivate them to come on the continent and support this healthcare infrastructure space. So there is alignment here. AFDB is interested in the healthcare infrastructure part of the project, where we are ready to put capital investment into the project, and we can bring other DFIs also. But somewhere what we see as one of the risks is the operators are coming as a service provider. If the Indian operators can come with the equity investment, which will give a lot of strength to the project for us also under the DFI, that will be very helpful how Exim Bank can support that. And I'll be more interested to learn on the equity portfolio you have R&D. I think R&D is also an area on the vaccine side. We can do a lot of work, since the Serum and there are other agencies also in India where Exim Bank supporting, and the government also supporting, other DFIs also supporting, so that how we can bring on the continent with your channel or with your platform. That's another way how we can do that. And I'll be more than happy to have a discussion with the other colleagues also in your Joburg office or Ethiopia office and the HQ also parallelly. If you want to have a discussion around that, that'll be great. I'll be happy to have a parallel discussion around that. If you can give some of the thoughts around that. And the business seminar is an interesting area, I think, which can immediately start how you can bring the healthcare operators from India who have a African focus in terms of the investment, in terms of the expansion of their business. I think that would be a great help. So a lot of questions, a lot of observations. Yeah. So if you can give us little guidance around that, would be very helpful.
Arun, I think this is what you've asked. I think we should have another seminar itself. But to just touch upon some of the, in fact, it's very interesting. In fact, actually, just before this, I had the previous meeting was with an European financing agency who wanted to work with India Exim Bank specifically for vaccination. And we are very proud to mention that both in healthcare as well as pharmaceuticals, India Exim Bank has played a very, very strong role. In fact, when this COVID affected in last March 2020, in fact, some of our Indian companies who are in Exim Bank's customers rose up to the occasion and started doing what is possible for fighting the COVID when no one is having the solution. Be it manufacture of ventilators, which was very, very required at the point of time in India, be it hospital beds, some of the engineering products, be it PPE kits, sanitized masks, sanitizers, etc. From late December and early January, some of the Indian companies started manufacturing or doing research in vaccines. And as we know that more than 50-60% of world's vaccines are manufactured in India. And I think even, while some of the few vaccines for COVID vaccines started in the West, India also were making indigenous vaccines. In fact, currently there's one indigenous vaccine, and there are a few more vaccines which is on the pipeline. Under the R&D loan which you mentioned, Exim Bank has financed one company for its R&D of the vaccine, which is actually going to be launched in a couple of months. This will be the second indigenous vaccine. There are other vaccine manufacturers who are developing again, which could be the first different model of vaccines. We are moving away from injections to nasal to spray, etc. A lot of Indian companies are working in that system. We are also working in other vaccine ecosystem, not only just vaccines, and this is particularly maybe interesting for Africa. We have seen some requirements in Africa. Vaccines are available, but where to storage? Because some of the vaccines are required to be stored in a particular temperature, and this would require electricity, but which will not be available in remote places. So this is basically, we are trying to work with some of Indian companies which offer solutions for off-grid, solar-based refrigerated vaccine storage systems. There has been some interest in Africa. We'll be very happy to work with AFDB if there is some interest. As you would know, besides pharmaceuticals, India is known for IT. IT should also come in handy in terms of vaccine tracking system. There are Indian companies which has implemented or developed and implemented beautiful vaccine tracking system, which is even looked at the Western world. This could be something again very interesting for Africa to track how the vaccine is progressing. So if you look at India, Exim Bank is working in the entire vaccine ecosystem, including recent demand of oxygen. We are talking to some oxygen manufacturers whether we can increase the capacity of oxygen. Going beyond the traditional, we are also looking at some of the beds expansion in hospitals, both in India and Africa. Specifically, Mr. Arun talking about how India can work with Africa. There are a lot of Indian manufacturers of pharmaceuticals put up plans in Africa, starting with a distribution, but going ahead with thing. India Exim Bank, in fact, I have visited some of the vaccine, the Lozenges plant in Nigeria, financed by India Exim Bank, by an Indian company. There's a lot of Indian companies which is putting up outpatient diagnostic centers. So there's a huge potential through its policy business. Exim Bank has financed setting up of a large number of primary health centers in Zambia. So there is a lot of areas where India Exim Bank can work with AFDB, particularly with healthcare and pharmaceuticals. And this can go beyond what we have been currently working with Ms. Caroline and the team in terms of in transmission. We'll be very happy to work particularly in healthcare and pharmaceuticals. Thanks, Arun.
Thanks so much. And yeah, Aaron, we can, we'll share contact details and we can perhaps take up the conversation offline as well. But certainly there have been some more questions in the chat box, talking about, whether the bank or whether Exim is open to untied or parallel co-financing with the African Development Bank. I think some of these questions as well can be explored later. But Caroline, I see you have your hand up and you may want to answer some of these points.
Yes, thank you very much, Alistair, and thank you very much, Mr. Kumar. Really, the purpose of this discussion was really to initiate discussions around topics like health and pharmaceuticals, because as I mentioned in my presentation, and following the COVID-19 pandemic, the bank seeks to do more in this area. So this is really an opportunity to showcase a bit what India Exim Bank is doing. I should mention to Arun that last year there were a number of health care events organized by India Exim Bank for which the bank participated. There were a number of very big events on innovative financing, which was organized also by the India Exim Bank, for which senior management also participated. So I think with regards to discussions on health and pharmaceuticals, we could have a separate dialogue with India Exim Bank. I should mention it's already ongoing in PIVP, but we certainly need to bring on board our health team that sits in AHVP. I'd like to mention that. Now, in terms of a business opportunity seminar, India has also organized quite a number of them in country offices. We can work with our Tokyo office as well to organize other business opportunity seminars, because we've also been collaborating with our office in Tokyo. Thank you. Mr. Kumar, if I may, it would be interesting to talk about the co-financing bit and if it's parallel, whether you tied or not, because this is something which is of very big interest to the bank on how we can collaborate in co-financing or parallel co-financing and maybe syndications, why not? So over to you.
Thanks, Caroline. In terms of answering the opportunities for co-financing, I'll broadly divide into two categories. We have some programs under what we call policy business, which would be tied funding. The other one is called commercial business, which is no requirement of tied, it's untied. So we have a blend of both tied funding and untied funding, open funding. So both we have. In terms of what we can do, in terms of there's a project which is of interest to AFDB, and there is an India Connect. When I say untied, what we mean is that there is no requirement of exports from India, but whereas there should be some India Connect, the owner should be from India, or there should be some India Connect. So even so, if there's a project in Africa which is of interest, could be infrastructure, could be a PPP, it could be even a transmission. Where AFDB has an interest, there is an Indian company which is interested as a PPP. So India Exim Bank and AFDB can work together in terms of financing it. And as you would know that some of the projects, what we fund goes in terms of tenor of this thing, goes up to 15 to 20, 25 years. So we can really match in terms of some of the, tenor and other terms. Pricing, we need to understand what could be your pricing, but there could be projects which could be of mutual interest to AFDB and India Exim Bank, and it could be both tied and untied.
Thank you very much. Alistair, if I may, one last question to Mr. Kumar. It was on the chat box. It's with regards to counter trade. Maybe if you could elaborate a bit further on this innovative product for colleagues to have a better understanding. It has been raised in the chat box. Thank you.
Was it on counter trade, Caroline?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. In fact, actually, this is at a discussion stage where Exim Bank India is working on a paper. In fact, we have drafted a paper and we given it to the various stakeholders to find out whether it can be done. See what it started as an idea. In fact, we have done in a different way, where in the past with Malaysia and few other countries. But what we have seen is that there are some countries in Africa. Where we can, there's a potential to export, but they don't have enough foreign currency to make the payment. But whereas they have some they have some other resource which could be of use to us. So we were thinking that, like a good mechanism where which India and and country as a test model can work, where there will be a settlement mechanism through an institution like India Exim Bank. Maybe AFDB can partner in terms of a counterparty in Africa, where we trade products where there is no stumbling blocks, especially in terms of the foreign currency or any such hurdles.
I think some of the mechanisms are like which we were discussing or deliberating was that like with where a country has a rich resources but unable to really create a escrow or escrow mechanism.
I'm just giving an example in Nigeria. Nigeria is very, very rich in terms of petroleum, which India is requiring petroleum. So they could be like, say, they would require pharmaceuticals. Okay, they may even look at putting up a pharma project. Okay, but they don't have foreign currency. So we could set up a mechanism by which the country's requirement is met and where it also makes commercial sense for the Indian exporters. And the idea is that the exporters, be it from Africa or India, they have a confidence that, okay, when I export, okay, my money will come back because there is a counter-trade mechanism by which the other party will be able to export, and there could be a settlement mechanism which could be mutually accepted upfront, which will take care of their payments as well.
Thank you.
Great. Yes, thanks so much, Mr. Sivakumar and Mr. Kumar. I think we are almost at the end of the hour, and I think we've answered all the questions in the chat box and from colleagues. So I think I will bring the session to an end and perhaps suggest that if any other colleagues from the bank have questions around how to engage and to continue some of these conversations with Exim Bank, to contact Caroline. She shared her email earlier on. And also any questions in relation to the India Trust Fund and the discussions to renew the trust fund. So I would defer future questions, to Caroline. But thank you so much for all of your time, all the attendees. Thank you in particular to Mr. Sivakumar and Mr. Kumar for your time and your presentations and the ongoing partnership with the bank. Thank you also to Caroline, to Fatma, to Dorsaf for your help. I think Ify has dropped off. And yeah, this was a really useful and interesting discussion, and look forward to hear about future conversations and partnership opportunities.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
After you, Caroline.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alizir. Thank you, Caroline. Thank you, Fatma, and other colleagues. It's a real pleasure to continue our interactions beyond the transmission lines. We'll be more happy to engage, continue to engage with AFDB on more such interactive sessions, including on healthcare.
Yes.
So thank you so much, and wish you all good health. Be safe. Take care.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you, Fatima, Dr. Alistair. Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, Dorsaf.